Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast. On this week's show, Disney is bringing back a figment of our imagination. Marvel continues to drop big news about upcoming projects. Abed's prediction about a Community movie finally comes true. Timothy Chalamet bears his bones and all. Netflix is about to take us on an excellent adventure. And we get a huge trailer for Wakanda Forever. So join us as we discuss all this and everything else that happened this week in Geek.
Love ya. Get home safe, guys. Peace.
Hello, my name is Kev, and if you're joining us for the first time, well, we are Geekcentric, a podcast covering the world of movies, TV shows, toys and collectibles, gaming, and all things Geekcentric. We're back with another edition of This Week in Geek, where we look at all the latest news and trailers from the Geekiverse. Of course, I can't do this alone. Joining me on the show, they're a couple of excellent friends with a sturdy outer shell, and when it comes to movie news, they're always ready to give it hell. Justin and Darcy, how are we doing today?
Great. How are you?
Yeah, I love that intro.
Excellent friends.
And then you somehow went to Raising Hell. I like how you got there. It was a journey.
It's always a bit of a journey to come up with these rhymes at the beginning of the show. It might be the hardest. Part of hosting these shows, but it's always always
just
a
as
fun
a stipulation, you don't have to, but it's always appreciated.
But when we're 3 years deep in something like this, it's just gotta happen. You know, can't change the formula now. But yeah, everyone had a good week. I know for myself, the real effects of parenthood are kicking in this week. I'm starting to learn all about sleep deprivation now. I'm on zombie time right now. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't know that yet. I guess I'm trying to get myself ready for what will be.
I think you're going to do just fine, but it will be those tricky nights where you're in a rush to edit a podcast and you're half awake. I have a feeling a couple of those podcasts might be a bit shaky from an editing perspective. It'll definitely be interesting to see. But we are kind of back in the swing of things now with our weekly This Week in Geek. We're rolling on with our traditional formula, and so I think
don't jinx it.
No, hey, but no, it's been good. It's been good. We've been able to stick to again the regular formula. So why don't we do just that and start where we always do with the news.
It's all about the details.
Our first story comes from Rosie Cordero at Deadline. Disney Dragon character Figment is getting a featured treatment from Dan Hernandez, Benji Samit, and Point Grey. A Disney film is in the works featuring the character Figment, a small purple dragon who serves as the mascot of Epcot's Imagination Pavilion in Orlando. The feature hails from Seth Rogen's Point Grey, with Pokemon Detective Pikachu's Dan Hernandez and Benji Samit set to write. Figment was created by Walt Disney Imagineers Tony Baxter and Steve Kirk, among other collaborators, in 1983, the same year it made its debut in the Epcot ride Journey into the Imagination. A classic for old school Disney World fans. Figment is the embodiment of the imagination process, a figment of your imagination quite literally. Although he's one of Disney's more obscure characters, Figment has a devoted fan base that has ensured his role at the park is never diminished. Various attempts to remove the ride or decrease his presence have been met with loud protests. Today, he's the star of the latest version of the ride Journey into Imagination with Figment. The feature will not be Figment's first time on the big screen, however. He made cameo appearances in 2015's Inside Out and 2019's Toy Story 4. So I am a member of that small but vocal minority. Figment was a favorite character of mine from childhood.
You were one of those rioters, eh?
Mm-hmm.
You were one of those people.
I don't know if I would have lined up outside the parks with a sign, Figment,
change yourself to the ride. No!
No, I'm always a fan of updating and constant innovation, and so I certainly had no problem with Disney sort of tweaking the experience, and I think it could even be tweaked a little more. Journey into Imagination has never been a standout, but for whatever reason, it resonated with me as a kid. So it'll be kind of fun to see the character maybe take center stage for the first time for a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it's a good movie, because if reception for this movie is well, then maybe we will finally see that ride get a much needed update, bringing it into the 21st century. Because the last one, having written it in the last few years, it was a long ride. We got stuck at a certain part and saw the same video probably 5 or 6 times. So it definitely could use an update. And I hope that the movie is what kind of spurs that movement.
Yeah, I think Disney's efforts to blend the lines between their park rides and movie creations and help kind of round out the experiences altogether. I think Figment's the perfect character that deserves to have an updated movie, something that's probably, again, given who's involved, I'm thinking something more in line with what we got from Chip and Dale, a little bit more satirical, a little bit more meta, if you will. Still very, meaningful in what Figment symbolizes as sort of the beacon of imagination, if you will. Because I that's, again, not being a veteran of Disney, but, going on that ride, I think once or twice, and really being able to take away that it is about imagination and how that is the key to creativity and that unlocks so much. And I think that is such a relevant and an important message that can continue, and it's such a staple to Disney's mantra, if you will, of what goes into what they make is that imagination. I think it's almost like a secondary mascot for Disney in a way, and given that Epcot is celebrating its 40th anniversary, it's perfect timing for this news. I know from the news article they had Seth Rogen's face there. I was like, could he be voicing Figment? Because I'm kind of into that if that's the case.
It would certainly be quite the
departure
change
from the norm.
The character's voice. Now, I remember when we did our Day at Disney YouTube video, and I voiced the character there, and we even had to pitch up my already high-pitched voice just to sort of try and capture it as best we can. So having Seth Rogen sort of grunt his way through the character,
I kind of dig it though. I kind of dig it. It could be a different Figment. It could be like the behind the scenes Figment. Like he's one way on camera, so you get another voice actor for that. And then when he's off camera, he's the Seth Rogen touting kind of guy. And maybe he's lost imagination just because of where everything is. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot that can be explored with that character, and in a special, in a way that makes it relevant for now, that still speaks to the importance of what imagination can breed and that creativity. Because even imagination is what, and I'm pretty sure in the ride they talk about it from science, even from a science perspective. Imagination is the key to why we have some of the science revelations that we've had over the years. It's because someone had imagined that and went through the process of what does that look like and made it a reality. So it's an interesting thing to kind of branch across. So yeah, it definitely has me interested in what the potential could be, as I've already stated here.
Yeah, no, I like your pitch on it already. I think that would work really, really well. So it'll definitely be interesting to follow this, the production of this movie as we find out a little bit more as we go through time here. But speaking of a character sort of making their first appearance on the big screen, we're going to head over into some Marvel news where a character is going to be starring on the big screen rather than the small screen in kind of surprising news. The first story here comes from Boris Kitt at The Hollywood Reporter. Marvel is shaking up Armor Wars, Don Cheadle series now being developed as a movie. Yasser Lester, who was acting as head writer on the series, will remain as its feature scribe. Marvel Studios has shaken up the project, and what was set to have been a series for Disney Plus will be redeveloped as a feature film. Sources say the studio was committed to telling the story the right way and realized that a feature was better suited for the project. Like all Marvel movies, Armor Wars is intended for a theatrical release. Don Cheadle, who is reprising his longtime MCU role as Colonel James Rhodey Rhodes, a.k.a. War Machine, remains on board to star. Yasser Lester, as I mentioned, who is acting as head writer on the series, will remain as its feature scribe. Marvel has been eyeing a 2023 start of production on the series, but the few people who were gearing up for that were notified Thursday of the change of direction. No directors have been officially attached, and it's unclear where an Armor Wars feature would slot in on Marvel's timeline of movies and Disney Plus series. Little is known about Armor Wars, although earlier this month at Disney's D23 Expo, Cheadle joined Marvel Studios producer and president Kevin Feige on stage, revealing a logo for what was then touted as a 6-episode event series. Feige first announced plans for Armor Wars in late 2020. The title Armor Wars hails from a celebrated storyline that was published in the Iron Man comics in 1987 and 88, written by David Michelini and Bob Layton, with art by Mark Bright. It tackled the idea of the highly advanced technology of Iron Man falling into the wrong hands. The live-action series was seen as a way to showcase multiple types of armor. So, Darce, as our resident comic book fan, how familiar, if at all, are you with the Armor Wars storyline that was in the Iron Man comics?
I have never read the actual Armor Wars storyline itself, but I have, being a fan of the Iron Man comics recently, or of later years, I guess, they do like to call back to certain big storylines throughout the course of a story. So I constantly see them talking about what happened during the Armor Wars. And if anything, I'm more excited. I'm excited because I hope that we get to see Justin Hammer come back, because Sam Rockwell's Justin Hammer was a huge part, or at least just Justin Hammer was a huge part of the original Armor Wars storyline, because he was, again, Stark's biggest rival in the industry. So I think it'd be really cool for him to come back as at least a minor antagonist, kind of like he was for Iron Man 2, but have him be a bit more competent this time.
Yeah, I think there's actually been rumors floating around that both he and Paul Bettany as White Vision would be returning to the Armor Wars movie, and I think it's smart. There's also been a lot of rumors online on Twitter, people talking about how Marvel is kind of moving away from the Disney Plus series and shifting them into productions that are similar to what we're getting with Werewolf by Night, where they're Marvel Studios special presentations. And I think that's in a way for them to adjust their own pacing, because when you look at their strategy for the next 3 years with series and movies, it's a lot. And there's so much that, a series like this would entail. And into a 6-episode series, I think even though there might be more of a budget, there's more of a scale, I think it's probably going to be easier for them to package this as a film and put it on the big screen versus trying to tell it in a 6-part series. We've been seeing this throughout the Marvel Disney Plus experience. It's like, well, that should have been a movie and this should have been a series kind of thing. And, I think that they're still figuring out that formula, and this might be the next evolution of that, where they're starting to take some of these stories and say, you know what, let's make some specials out of them. I think the 2 series that were supposed to be taking place in Wakanda, one about Okoye and one about the Wakanda people, which was supposed to be a series, is now being rumored to be one of these Marvel special events, if you will. So special presentations, sorry. So I think this is kind of like their first sort of announcement of that direction. I'm expecting that we'll hear more about things kind of going that way, where there might be transitioning to contained episodes or smaller movie events.
Well, it's definitely interesting, because this is the first time I can think of where something that was scheduled to be a show has been converted, or the plans have changed to it becoming a movie. And I wonder, with something like Armor Wars, where you're going to have so much focus on the suits and the CGI necessary to sort of pull that off, I wonder if the idea here is it requires a bigger budget than maybe, not that they chintz out on the TV shows in any way, shape, or form, but I think maybe the budget needs to be a bit bigger, and then you need to justify that by getting that box office revenue that a film would bring in versus the Disney Plus. So I wonder if that has anything to do with it.
But definitely, I think plays a part in that as well. I think you got to imagine that they're looking at numbers on all angles to understand it. And even from a time perspective, to shoot 6 episodes of that series with the post-production process, it's probably, more costly and more timely than if they just decided to do it as, a 2-hour, just over 2-hour movie. That really does hone in, and they can, throw maybe a little bit more of those dollars for post-production, knowing that they'll get that return because it's a box office. It'll be in box office. So, I think that's totally true. And
I mean, Darcy, you got me excited with the idea of Sam Rockwell potentially returning. Obviously, we don't have any word on that, but when you have a terrific actor like Sam Rockwell, and you kind of wasted in Iron Man 2, to sort of redeem that, and he's fantastic. But I mean,
yeah, he was fantastic. He was a highlight.
I return and watch a lot,
sure.
And so maybe a second chance to produce something where you want to watch it more than once to see him.
Mm-hmm. And it definitely fits with his character's storyline. I mean, if you look at Iron Man 2, he was basically doing the same thing that Armor Wars were before that. he's doing the same thing that Armor Wars will be focusing on, and it's the non-Stark produced bodysuits or suits of armor type thing. So I perfect time for him to bring him back, and I do think that a lot of it, maybe Falcon and Winter Soldier, they learned from that, where there was a lot of filler and not enough like action to kind of keep the viewer interested. Whereas with this, when you're talking about suits of armor flying around the screen, you want to see that. So definitely makes sense that they're shifting to a movie.
Yeah, I also think that, getting into speculation, if they bring back Justin Hammer, they've already hinted at MODOK, AIM is a big thing. It might be a perfect storm to kind of, bring those two together and bring that into the MCU. So, I think that it makes total sense for Justin Hammer to make his return with a name like Justin. Come on, it's fucking badass.
Who knows? It will certainly be interesting to follow this up, and obviously, if it hasn't even started, we won't see this for at least a few years. But like the article says, it will be interesting to see sort of where they slot it into the whole MCU timeline.
Well, from what we know, Secret Invasion is to feed into Armor Wars, so it's kind of the sequel to that story. So it's got to happen after that. It's just, where is it going to fit? To your point, because there's a lot of movies in that timeline, and there's a lot of series coming. So where is it going?
And I think we just have to trust in Feige. He probably knows a lot more than has been released. He's just keeping it a secret for now. And speaking of secrets, this ties right into our next MCU story, which comes from Justin. Speaking of Justins, this comes from Justin Kroll at Deadline. Avengers Secret Wars. Michael Waldron is tapped to pen the upcoming installment for Marvel Studios. Following the success of Loki and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Michael Waldron looks to be in line for another high-profile Marvel property. As sources tell Deadline, he is set to write Avengers Secret Wars for Marvel Studios. Deadline recently broke that Jeff Loveness was on board to write Avengers The Kang Dynasty. Following the news, Destin Daniel Cretton would be directing Kang Dynasty for Marvel Studios, and now both films have locked up their writers. Insiders add that Secret Wars will have its own director, though it's assumed all parties will be in touch while the films are in development. Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige is producing, obviously. Like the Kang Dynasty, plot details are being kept under wraps. Avengers Secret Wars was part of the massive unveiling of the future phases of the Marvel Cinematic Universe at this summer's San Diego Comic-Con, including its November 8th, 2025 release date. Insiders say meetings for the job took place last month, and while a number of writers met, many believed Waldron was the frontrunner given how much trust the studio has in the writer. Waldron's been on a roll with the studio during the past year, starting with last year's hit Loki series for Disney+. Waldron served as exec producer and showrunner on the series, which was so popular it became one of few Marvel series to receive a second season renewal. Production on season 2 is also underway. On the film side, Waldron wrote one of Marvel's bigger movies in the post-pandemic times with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. The film bowed in May and has grossed more than $950 million at worldwide box office. Waldron is also developing and writing Feige's secret Star Wars film for Lucasfilm, but we don't have much details on that to talk about today. As a fan of Loki, but not so much Multiverse of Madness, I'm kind of torn how I feel about Waldron getting, such an integral role on such an important. This is maybe the biggest Marvel movie ever, and so it's
for sure.
I'm torn here. I'm torn.
I'm also torn. But it does make sense that he would be front runner. Even from our interview earlier this year with Michael Waldron and Sam Raimi, and Kevin, you asked him a question about balancing what the comics gave you and taking it in a new direction. And he talked about some of his inspiration, and some of that inspiration did spill from Secret Wars. So I think he's actually probably the best informed to take it in the direction, knowing where their Marvel wants to go with it. But that said, Doctor Strange was a little sloppy. I think it gave us some great moments and some cool stuff, but it was just very inconsistent. And for everything that movie was expected to be following No Way Home, it did fall short. And I think if you're trying to emulate, again, they're not trying to emulate, but they are trying to create the next big MCU event, comparable to the Infinity War Endgame mashup. But you had two writers that were consistent from movie to movie writing that one. So it will be interesting to see how the collaboration goes from the writer of Kang's Dynasty into working with Michael Waldron on Secret Wars, and I guess also the director. Like, there's been rumors that Ryan Coogler is being tapped to potentially direct Secret Wars, and given the fact that they both have their own directors, Destin and Ryan are actually friends, and I think that might make perfect sense if Ryan Coogler does take up the mantle of directing Secret Wars, because he and Destin can really work together, and they already have that existing relationship. So, I think if everything is just working, then hopefully it goes well. Do you know what I mean? But I'm hoping that Michael Waldron will have other people to work with, not just himself, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm hoping that, like you said, that there is collaboration between the two, and even before leading up to the Secret Wars, if we are going to be getting those kind of little Easter egg nods that lead to this final movie, much like we got for Infinity War and Endgame, that they are there from the beginning to help formulate those little stepping stones that will get us to that final story. Because I think that we got Loki was great in that he had all those stepping stones that got us to a certain point in payoff, and it was very well received. I feel like it was rushed and stuff was dropped for Multiverse of Madness, and I hope that this time around there's more focus on that interconnecting story between these two movies and even everything that precedes him.
Almost in a way, having being involved with all the things that are going to lead up to their inevitable movies, to say, oh, can we plant this here? Can we put this here? This is really going to be helpful for me, because then I don't have to worry about explaining this, or you know what I mean? Like, I think you're absolutely right. I think they have to have kind of oversight on all of the things that are happening. But that's not to say I don't think that they don't already have that, right? Like, if Doom is going to make an appearance, let's say in Wakanda Forever, Dr. Doom, then, do you know what I mean? Like, that's something that everyone already knows that's working on future projects, is that they can now potentially involve him. And, even Fantastic Four is meant to feed into Kang's Dynasty, into Secret Wars. That's really going to be interesting too, where we kind of get that connectivity. But I think a lot of this is really going to start up with Quantumania in February. I think we're going to see a lot of the storyline, the things that we're going to be getting for the next 2 to 3 years just kind of kick off in that movie. And I think that's where it's all going to begin.
For sure, and it'll just be interesting to see, Waldron work with a different director. I think a lot of my issues, at least with Doctor Strange in the multiverse, stems with the director, and a lot of that movie felt like they were his decisions, and a lot of the things I didn't like just felt very Sam Raimi, and not so much the same person who created some terrific moments with Loki, which I felt was a lot more consistent and just fit into the MCU a bit better. So I'm willing to give him another chance. I'm just a little hesitant that it's on such a big project. But again, I think whereas Doctor Strange was almost, I'm not going to say a one-off or a more solitary film on its own, I think with something like Secret Wars being so huge, or Secret Invasion, I should say.
Secret Wars,
right? Yeah. There's so many secrets going on here. I just think there'll be a lot more collaboration with Waldron and Feige and everybody. So that's what I'm hoping. And I would never doubt Feige and the team coming up. So it'll certainly be interesting to see where they take it next.
I guarantee we'll get our director announcement probably shortly after the release of Black Panther.
Well, we just got another announcement for a non-MCU entity, but one that myself and I'm sure fans of a little popular TV show have been waiting for years for. This story comes from Ryan Leston at IGN. 6 seasons and a movie has come true as Community is finally getting its long-promised movie. After many starts and restarts, Community finally got through 6 seasons, and as the prophecy foretold, is finally getting the long-awaited movie. Peacock has ordered a movie based on the long-running comedy by Dan Harmon. Perhaps even more exciting is that almost all the original cast members will return, including Joel McHale, Danny Pudi, Alison Brie, Jillian Jacobs, Jim Rash, and Ken Jeong. Noticeably, original stars Yvette Nicole Brown and Donald Glover have not been confirmed, though I wouldn't rule them out. However, Chevy Chase is extremely extremely unlikely to return after a very public falling out over the show. A quote here, 6 seasons in a movie started out as a cheeky line from Community's early seasons and quickly ignited a passionate fan movement for this iconic, hilarious, and cool NBC comedy, said Chairman of Entertainment Content at NBC Universal Television and Streaming, Susan Rovner. She continues saying, we're incredibly grateful that 15 years later, we're able to deliver fans this promised movie and can't wait to get to work with Dan Harmon, Andrew Guest, Joel McHale, Sony, and our partners at UTV to continue this epic comedy for Peacock audiences. The idea was first uttered by Abed, played by Danny Pudi, during the Season 2 episode Paradigms of Human Memory, a spin of the flashback that never happened episode trope that clearly resonated with fans. Taking a shot at the canceled TV show The Cape, this episode sees Abed dressed as the Cape from the show during one of the flashbacks that never happened. Jeff is visibly angry and shouts, "The show's going to last 3 weeks." In response, Abed says 6 seasons in a movie while running off, creating the meme that became a rallying cry for fans of Community across the globe, especially as the show seemingly faced cancellation all the time throughout its own 6 seasons. Now with the show's 6 seasons behind us, it looks as though Community is finally getting its own movie, and it's been on the cards for some time. Creator Dan Harmon has been saying that the film will happen since 2016, with regular updates suggesting the film is on its way. Community creator Dan Harmon is writing the movie and is also on board as executive producer, but no director has been locked in as yet. And Mikhail, Andrew Guest, Russ Krasnoff, and Gary Foster are on board as executive producers. So I myself was a big Community fan, and followed it throughout its many iterations over its many streaming platforms. It was quite the wild ride over the show's 12-year run. Gentlemen, how about yourselves? How familiar are you with Community?
Like you, I've been a staunch follower since the beginning. I remember watching the pilot with my mom when it was airing, and immediately falling in love with the quirky cast and all that stuff, and the wild antics they get up to at Greendale. So I am very excited to see where this movie goes. I'm just wondering if it's been too long or not. Like I can't remember the last time I went and watched Community or heard someone talk about Community. So it just kind of seems out of the blue, at least to me.
Well, as someone who has watched episodes but hasn't watched it consistently, hasn't been a huge sort of follower, if you will, but does appreciate the show and appreciate its comedy and its sort of meta nature, and actually kind of really being one of the, I would say, first real comedies to kind of throw in the meta in a very tongue-in-cheek way that I think a lot of shows now emulate, in various ways. I think that the cult following, if you will, or the passion of the fans, I think it'll do well. It might weed out people, like you said, like some people who are like, oh, that was so long ago, I'm not into it. But I think the diehards are going to show up and watch this movie and want to know what it's all about and stick around. And I think that's really who it's for. And I think that it's deserving too. Like the show has such a rapport with people, and so many people love those characters and love the stories that they told in that show that, again, if it was a promise that, fans, very much, they manifested it, I think that's it's deserving for them to have that opportunity to tell this story in a movie. But it is obviously a direct to stream movie, right? It's not going to be in theaters, so it's going to be something that will be available on Peacock. So, again, what does that mean for the future of the series? Is this it? Do you know what I mean? Like, is this going to be their goodbye to their characters and closing out, fulfilling the proclamation of 6 seasons in a movie, and that's it? Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, I certainly think so, and I hope that it's not just for the sake of doing 6 seasons in a movie because it became a popular meme and joke, and I hope that Dan Harmon really does have a worthy idea to bring here. But this is just a perfect example of how these streaming services and the fact that movies can be made and put into these platforms and not necessarily producers or studios aren't as afraid to have a potential flop on their hands with a theatrical release.
No, take a chance
now that they can do streams and whatnot. And I just think it'll be very interesting given the up and down nature of the show, where it was great for a few seasons, then tapered off after they lost Dan Harmon. Then he came back and really helped resurrect it. And then, it was obviously tough to lose Donald Glover. He had bigger, better things to look out for. So, I mean, I really do hope that we get Troy back. I don't think you can have a movie without his character. I think that would really help.
Yeah, for sure. And was a lot of it just not wanting to be typecasted as that character? Is that part of the reason why he wanted to leave it, or was it just because he wanted to pursue other things outside of being Troy?
I think as far as I can remember, it was that he wanted to focus more on Childish Gambino and music. He was taking a step back from acting as a whole at that point. So it would be cool seeing that he's starting to step back into acting shoes with the later years, stuff like that. It would be neat to see if he comes back as Troy.
Yeah.
Or even an older Troy who's grown up a bit more. We can see where he is now, because that's kind of what everyone's wondering after his whole boat excursion that we got.
Right.
That
was the way
basically.
That's the way they sent him off. I remember.
Yeah. Hopefully he survived his big trek and yeah, he's ready to return. Maybe he went off and became a famous musician himself. The way they like to sort of play tongue in cheek with everything.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking he comes back and he's got like some sort of like oldish, boy. I don't know. You could come up with something.
He's the
Childish
juvenile Bambino or something. Yeah.
Oldish Bambino. There you go. Love it. That works. There you go. We got him back in the show. No problem.
There we go. Perfect. But I am excited about that. Maybe we'll get a little paintball. We'll get a little fort action. Lots of neat little throwbacks to the show that were so popular with fans that they could definitely harken back to with the return to Greendale one more time. But that will do it for the news. As always, we're now going to follow it up with a little serenade on the banjo. I'm going to cue that up because
It's trailer time.
all right, our first trailer is for Bones and All, a coming-of-age romantic horror road film. That's quite the genre. Directed by Luca Guadagnino from a screenplay by David Kajanik, based on the 2015 novel of the same name by Camille DeAngelis. The film follows cannibalistic lovers Marin and Lee as they embark on a road trip across Reagan-era America. The film stars Taylor Russell and Timothée Chalamet, with Mark Rylance, Michael Stuhlbarg, Chloe Sevigny, and David Gordon Green. The film premiered at the 79th Venice International Film Festival, where it won the Silver Lion for Best Direction. It's scheduled for release on November 18th. I believe that's a limited release, with a wider release on Thanksgiving, and nothing will get you in the mood for that family dinner at Thanksgiving than a film about
star-crossed lovers.
Yes.
Yeah, star-crossed lovers killing and eating their food. Yeah, that is wholesome entertainment for you. But I gotta say, this trailer definitely caught me off guard. I'm intrigued. I think again, it is at least what I'm enjoying about cinema right now is blending of genres. So you have the road trip, lover, horror, all mixed together in this. I think it's really interesting. And obviously, given the highlights and this sort of celebration that it's been getting at festivals, and the trailer is just riddled with lovely comments of it. It seems like it hits well. It does the job. It'll be interesting to see Timothée Chalamet kind of lean into more of a sadistical sort of role. I don't think we've really gotten that from him very much. Like even in the moments that we saw in Dune, where he's not sadistic, but like just the emotional range, it was a little more tempered because he's still obviously figuring out himself. But here it seems like we'll see a plethora of emotional range from Timothée Chalamet.
Well, and as excited as I am, because I do think this will be a new sort of a version of Timothée Chalamet that we haven't seen. And after, was it about a year ago, we had the Year of Timothée. But no, so it'll be neat to see him in a different type of role for him. But even just the supporting cast with Mark Rylance and Michael Stuhlbarg alone is enough to... That had me interested even before the just smattering of critical praise that sort of ended the trailer there. It really looks like it's resonated with audiences. But yeah, I think the supporting cast there really has me intrigued just because I love any time those two are on screen.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'll be seeing this one. It looks like it's really leaning into that horror aspect, and it's the aspect of horror I don't like, where it's too real and makes me uncomfortable. But again, I'm a fan of Chalamet, so who knows? I might be going back on my word once I hear you guys rave about it and how much I need to see it. So I'm intrigued, but also, like most horror movies, not wanting to watch it. But I guess that's kind of the whole point, appeal of horror movies is that gritty grotesqueness sometimes.
I do wonder if this will be a movie that will see some award noms and maybe even some wins. Maybe for some of that from the supporting cast, like you mentioned, Kev. But I think, definitely Timothée Chalamet will probably be nominated. Even Taylor Russell, who knows? It looks like a new take on Natural Born Killers. I don't know if you remember that movie.
There you go. That's a good sort of parallel to draw to it for sure.
And it's just more modern, obviously. It seems it's a little bit more contemporary. So I'm wondering if, the way
it's set in the 80s as well, right? In Reagan era
yes.
America. So it is it's very similar in that regard then. And it'll be the two far from traditional romantic leads. You're sort of rooting for the bad guys, it seems here, which is always an interesting take. But apparently the meshing of horror and romance is rather well done, and it's something I've not heard being done all too often before. So the film certainly has a unique look and feel to it. Now, speaking of unique, why don't we jump into our second trailer here? So Gudetama, which loosely translates to lazy egg, is a Japanese cartoon character from a show that broadcast in a morning news section on TBS. No, not that TBS, the Tokyo Broadcast System Holdings. Now, each episode lasts for approximately 1 minute, and as of 2017, it had nearly 1,000 episodes. And so the trailer we watched was for the live-action CG animation hybrid Gudetama, An Excellent Adventure, which is set to debut on Netflix with 10 episodes. This one has a really fun look to it. It looks really
Did you
cool.
say excellent or excellent? Because you missed the pun if you said
Is it an excellent adventure?
It is. It's excellent
Okay.
adventure.
Oh, see, I thought I was creative using it in my intro there, but no, I had to have gotten it from somewhere. Okay, that makes a lot of sense then. So I'm not the brilliant genius that I was patting myself on the back for. Okay, fair enough.
This looks like tons of fun. I'm familiar with the anime that you referenced, but I've never watched all 1,000 episodes. I know that there's toys and there's plushies and there's all these almost like emojis and sticker packs that you can get for this character. So very popular. So I love that, Netflix is, going to be releasing and working obviously with, I'm imagining, a studio based in Tokyo or in Japan to bring this to life. And it kind of hits almost like a Marcel the Shell with shoes, very similar.
Yeah, I definitely got that vibe.
Yeah, for sure. And just this sort of life adventure, and yeah, it looks like it's going to be fun. I was laughing out loud the entire time I watched this trailer, so I'm interested to see what it is. I think we should review it, in all honesty.
I'd wholeheartedly be down for that. I love Sanrio's stuff. I'm a huge fan of Aggretsuko, which is the other Netflix show they have going on right now, and just the idea behind Gudetama is something that's always appealed to me, in that he's basically a lazy, depressed egg. In order to see him and interact with him, you also have to be just as lazy or depressed or listless in life. And everyone has felt that at some point, and just the antics that the egg gets up to and the hijinks and stuff like that are also heartwarming. That this seems like the perfect property to bring into a live action format, because there is just so much laughs and fun to be had with these two characters.
And it looks like it's going to have emotional hits. Like it's going to, like, it's going to be, again, like a Marcel the Shell with shoes on, right? Like it's going to have that emotional resonance with audiences. So I think it's going to do well.
Well, and it was such a great description of the character, Darce, because when I was doing a little research, it turns out that originally it was meant for young children, but because of just sort of the struggle that the character goes through, it resonated with adolescent audiences a lot more. That sort of, sometimes you do just want to be a lazy egg sort of attitude, which is very much not a part of Japanese culture that would be celebrated in a way that this character is, and so he's almost an anti-hero for a certain generation in that regards, and yeah, sort of taken on a life of his own because of that.
You got a lot of lazy eggs and ramen noodles, right? So I had to start somewhere. But I think, again, it'll be interesting to see if they're contained episodes or if it's an overarching story that carries between 10 episodes, or if it's like very much how you described, Kevin, with the original series. They're very self-contained episodes and they don't necessarily connect. But I feel like if they're going to they're leaning into live action, there's probably going to be some sort of overarching theme that or narrative that connects them all.
Yeah, I certainly think it sort of felt like it was going to lean that way, but there's only one way to find out. By the sounds of it, we are going to do our best here at Geekcentric to cover this show, so stay tuned for future reviews on what should be an excellent adventure. All right, let's move into now our final trailer, which is for Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. This was a massive trailer. The film is a sequel to 2018's Black Panther and is set to be the 30th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Ryan Coogler returns to direct the film. He also co-wrote the movie with Joe Robert Cole. In the film, the leaders of the Kingdom of Wakanda fight to protect their nation from invading forces in the wake of King T'Challa's death, and a new threat emerges from the hidden undersea nation of Talokan. The film sees returns from Letitia Wright, Lupita Nyong'o, Dene Gourier, Winston Duke, Angela Bassett, and Martin Freeman, and introduces Dominique Thorne and Tenoch Huerta. The film is scheduled to be released on November 11th as the final film of Phase 4 of the MCU. Obviously, we already got a teaser trailer just a little while ago. I believe that was at Comic-Con this year.
Yeah.
But this was our first full trailer. It showed a heck of a lot more, sort of what we can expect from the tone of the film. Looks really gritty, looks really harrowing. What were your guys' thoughts on this pretty epic trailer?
They certainly made his silly little wing feet things look actually intimidating, the way
Pretty
he's able
badass,
to nimbly move around there. Like, I'm actually afraid of that now. At first it's like, this is not going to work live action or anything like that, but no, I buy it. He's threatening.
But yeah, when he darts off in the sky there, when he's going off into the sky to face the Wakanda ships, yeah, like that was pretty badass to see. And yeah, I think a lot of people, I know Nate's not with us, and he definitely had a lot of things to say. We chatted about this offline, and he doesn't know how he feels about that. It's kind of cool, he says. I dig it. It's totally true to the character, so I'm glad that they kept it and they didn't like remove it or whatever they call it, retcon it, and just get rid of it and make it not matter. It's still integral to his character. But yeah, very much like the teaser, I think that while we see a lot in this trailer, and I think you're absolutely right, Kevin, it's very harrowing, it's very gritty. We see the stakes, if you will. We really don't know what's going on, other than I think the biggest thing that carries from the teaser into this is cultures colliding and families colliding and maybe even dynasties colliding in some aspects. And I think it's been said that the UN is intimidated by Wakanda and they want the vibranium because it is a weapon of mass destruction. So that's where we're seeing these military people trying to obviously steal and take some of that. And I think that that's going to play a part. Trust. And obviously, given the fact that Wakanda's broken in many ways because they've lost their king, and what that looks like from a family standpoint and legacy, this trailer does a lot in terms of getting me hyped even more with such a booming score. Like just how it builds, so similar to the teaser, which had very contemporary music melded together that I think spoke volumes about the message about no woman, no cry, and we're gonna be all right. Just these two things kind of coming together. And here it's very much very ritual, very very rooted in I think something deeper. So I'm excited to see what this movie's all about. So much to break down. What did you guys catch anything that like really grabbed your eye, other than obviously that final scene where we get our look at what looks to be Black Panther, and everyone's pretty certain it's Shuri. What do you guys think that's who it is?
I mean, I was thinking it was going to be Shuri leading up to this trailer, and the focus on the Dora Milaje leads me to believe that maybe it's one of them picking up the mantle because Shuri feels more comfortable in her role as the one designing the tech. So that was it's funny how before this trailer I thought that Shuri was the sure bet for like 100%, but now I'm kind of second guessing myself because it seems like the Milaje or the Dora Milaje will be playing a much bigger role in this conflict.
So yeah, and this is where I wanted to kind of talk with you guys about, because I know Nate, again, he was mentioning that he thinks that we're going to see more than one Black Panther through this movie, and I know Eric Voss from New Rockstars is on that same train as well. And I gotta say, I'm thinking that this is pretty apparent that this is 100% Shuri in that costume. The people have called it out on Twitter. The dotted specks on her mask, on the Black Panther's mask, match that what she wore at the end of Black Panther in her confrontation with Killmonger. As well as I think what we see in the beginning of this trailer when she's in this sort of funeral garment with her mother, gold around her forearms as well is an indication that I think it's her. But someone with some eagle eyes pointed out somewhere in this trailer, I can't remember the exact time spot, but there's another shot of a Black Panther in the background. But a lot of people have seemed to be debunking it as just it's probably Shuri again, but just it hasn't been completed CGI. But this started a whole conversation on Twitter of people saying there's more than one Black Panther, we're gonna see more. And I don't know, like I just don't know if it makes sense to have more Black Panthers. I think that kind of takes away from what it means to be a Black Panther and to be, the leader of Wakanda, the succession of the family dynasty, right? Like, I think very much in real life, we're going to see this, happen in the movie. But, I think Letitia Wright was probably spoken to and said, like, this is happening a lot sooner than we would want, but we want you to be the next Black Panther, given the situation that's happened here with the loss of Chadwick. And I think that's also going to take place in the movie. Like it's going to be thrusted upon her. And like you said, Darcy, she doesn't want that. I don't think she wants that. And I think that what we're seeing here is all this conflict that's going on in and around Wakanda, and how Wakanda is kind of broken because there is no sense of leadership. And to see her in this costume and to land, there's the leadership. There's the return of bringing Wakanda together forever. You know what I mean? Like, I think it is going to center around one person being Black Panther. Now, if the threat is so great that she says, you know what? You get a Black Panther suit. You get a Black Panther suit. She goes full Oprah and just throws Black Panther suits on all of like the toughest people in Wakanda. Then sure, I guess that would make sense. But it just feels like it would diminish the importance of the Dora Milaje to just say, well, you're now more stronger because you have the Black Panther suit. Do you know what I mean? Like the Dora Milaje is already seen as like these fierce warriors in there without.
Mm-hmm. I was just thinking that it would kind of make sense too if we get Black Panthers from like almost all the tribes, and how it is the strength of Wakanda is its people coming from all walks of life and stuff like that. So that was my aspect in thinking that maybe we'll see more than one. I think
it's totally on the table, man. It's something that could totally happen, but again, it's fandom, right? Anything is possible. But I'm just wondering if, again, it's this idea of succession, what we're going to see here. And given the story that I think is going to be kind of juxtaposed with Namor's story and his people and them coming out of sort of this sort of hidden world and making themselves known to everyone else, how that might, I'm wondering if we're going to see a connection between these two, because Tenoch Huerta, he went on the record of saying he's not the villain of this movie, which I think is interesting.
Well, I think we actually see the true villain in this movie in the trailer. We see Atuma jumping up in the one shot, the blue guy with the headdress and the spear. And I think that like in the comics, he is typically billed as Namor's arch nemesis. So he's always kind of fighting Namor to try and rule Atlantis in the comics, or I guess in the movies it'll be Talokan. But I think that we might be seeing he's the one who's whispering in Namor's ear and driving him to this conflict with Wakanda. So I totally believe that being the the reasoning behind Tenoch Huerta's statement saying he's not the villain. I think
also
Atuma is for sure.
I wonder too if like even just from a motive standpoint, we're going to hear, Namor's story and kind of understand like why, and maybe even feel justified, like by his actions, to understand, right? Because it's that's some compelling stuff when you can actually care for your villain and understand where they're coming from. That really speaks volumes, and I think that's what they're going to do with Namor.
I think that's been a theme in the first Black Panther movie as well, right? Where Eric Killmonger, his mission, his what drives him didn't make him a bad guy. It was maybe just the way he went about doing it, and so I wonder if that's a theme sort of carried on here. So it'll definitely be interesting, but we do not have long to wait. We're just over a month now, but here's hoping we can work with our friends over at Disney and get you set up heading into the big November 11th release date. But that does it for trailer time. It's time to wrap up the program like we always do with a little bit of whatcha. Here we like to discuss things that we're watching, we're reading, maybe a game we're playing. Just something on the side that's a little passion viewing or whatnot for ourselves. So let's jump right into that. Darce, what you been up to?
Well, recently I had a little bit of a board game night with some of my friends here, and I played a new game, Scooby-Doo the board game, published by one of my favorite game companies, Cool Mini or Not. And it is a surprisingly robust game considering it's Scooby-Doo and you're hunting down a bad guy. So that's one of the more nerdy aspects. But what I've been into the last few days really is I've picked up Tunic on Nintendo Switch, and it's a love letter to Zelda games and adventure games as a whole, and it's just such a heartwarming little isometric puzzle platformer game. Like, everything about it is so good, and the fact that it was developed by one guy and created by this guy who left his company because he had this passion wanting to bring back this adventure style game, and it is so worth picking up if you haven't checked it out already. Tunic by Finji Games, so good.
It's funny, on the last few weeks of This Week in Geek, you've become our video game go-to for your nice little recommendations, and I like how you're sticking to the maybe a little bit more underground, the not so publicized games here, finding some secret gems. Just taking a look at this one, definitely looks like it's got a really beautiful style to it. You've recommended a few games in the last few weeks that I've wanted to check out. I just wish I had more time for gaming. I could never seem to find it, but I would certainly follow up on your recommendations if I did have the time to do so. But Justin, how about yourself? What you been up to?
Oh, well, actually watched some content that was not related to anything that we needed to review, which was nice. Some content that I've been meaning to watch this weekend. A movie dropped on Netflix that I was very excited to watch. It's from Kid Cudi. It actually goes along with his album, and it's called Intergalactic. And it is a animated movie that's broken up into 6 chapters that tells a story about an ambitious artist named Jabari who attempts to sort of balance success and love after he moves into a new apartment in Manhattan. He's getting super successful in his career, and he actually ends up falling in love with his neighbor. Again, it's animated, so it is absolutely beautiful. It is so surreal. It is wild. And it's a vibe of its own. And the music, the visuals elevate Kid Cudi's music. And it was just a really great way to kind of marry the two, creating, not just a music video, but creating a film in and around a mood and a time frame and a story that is very relatable, and using the music to kind of subsequently connect the dots. And I thought it was well done. There's some great voice actors. Timothy Chalamet's in it, Jaden Smith's in it, Macaulay Culkin's in it, and they're subsequently just sort of side characters. But Laura Harrier, who plays Carmen, is in it. She plays Liz in Spider-Man: Homecoming, and then you have Kid Cudi, who plays Jabari, the main character, and Jessica Williams, who plays Meadow. And what's really great about the animation is that they all the characters look like the voice actors that are portraying them. So Macaulay Culkin's character looks very much like Macaulay Culkin. Even Carmen looks so much like Laura, and our main character, Jabari, definitely looks like Kid Cudi. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that they tried to blend the two so that it wasn't necessarily, it was trying to find a balance between this feeling live action but surreal at the same time, because I thought it was really well done, and the style is so unique to its own self.
The visual style's crazy. It looks like Waking Life meets Into the Spider-Verse.
But yeah, exactly. It's more Into the Spider-Verse, and it's definitely very painterly like Waking Life, but it's also more, I think it's called staccato, where it's just a lot more like very jittery animation. But the cityscapes, the spacescapes, they're just stunning. They're absolutely stunning. So definitely check it out. And then as a bonus hit, I also got into checking out Reboot on Disney Plus. It's from the television team that brought you Modern Family. It's a little bit more crude and a little more in your face, and it is very meta in the topic of shows that are being rebooted, and it's absolutely lovely. It stars Keegan-Michael Key, Judy Greer, Johnny Knoxville, Paul Reisner as sort of the main staple cast. It's absolutely tons of fun. I totally recommend it. It's on Disney Plus. It's a weekly drop episode. It's great.
Yeah, I think Nate mentioned Reboot last week on Whatcha. So
So
I think it's making its circle through the Geekcentric team for sure.
So I watched all the episodes that they had. They're great. So definitely, I totally was, as I was watching it, I was like, this is like a Kevin show for sure. So like, especially because you loved Modern Family, so this definitely goes that crude mentality, but there's less of the breaking the fourth wall and camera talking. It's very apparent though that it is very mockumentary, if you will.
Nice. Well, from mockumentary to documentary, I've been watching Welcome to Wrexham, which is a docuseries on FX. Essentially, it chronicles Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, creator of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And, on a whim, Rob McElhenney purchases a lower-tier football team in Wrexham, Wales. And so this kind of chronicles their journey. It's a really neat story. The way it shows the importance of this football club to its community. And that's very much something that Rob McElhenney identified with. He came from Philadelphia, where it's a much larger city, but it's the team means so much to so many people. And so, they had to get voted in to sort of take over ownership, and they have big goals to get the team promoted. They're down in the 4th tier, so they're quite a ways from the glory days of being in the Premier League, like Wrexham was back in the day. But just the team itself, they play in the oldest pro sports stadium in the world that's still in operation. And so they're slowly doing renovations to the stadium, but just to see how the community's embraced them, the community has been reinvigorated with their football club. And it's certainly not a show where you need to be a sports fan to appreciate the story. The football really is secondary to the story about the people surrounding this team and what it means to them. And then, to get to see Ryan Reynolds, if you're a big fan of him, or Rob McElhenney sort of in these roles, it's really, really cool. Sarah and I absolutely love the show. And I love the way they're sort of releasing it on to into the world here. It's 2 episodes a week, which is nice. So you get about an hour and 10 minutes worth of content every week. I think they're scheduled for 18 episodes for this season here. But the hardest thing is I've had to stop following Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney on Twitter, because I noticed they were posting results of football matches, and I don't want to know how the club is doing. I want to organically follow the story and see if they are able to succeed as the show goes on. So that's been a bit of a bummer that I lost 2 guys that I really like to follow on Twitter. But no, it's worth the show. Again, you don't have to be a sports fan, just a fan of stories about people, and Ryan Reynolds brings a real great personality to it. So it's a really cool story. It's honestly the ultimate dream for a sports fan, is to just go and buy a team and try and bring them back to prosperity and success. That's the ultimate dream. So for myself, I'm just absolutely loving the show, and recommend it to anybody.
Yeah, well, I think one of our fellow geeks who's not on this show has already watched it all. So
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was surprised that Nate was a big fan of that, but no, I just had to. I had to sort of take over, and I had. He got to talk about it last week, so I wanted to sort of jump in and sort of spotlight it for myself, just because the several episodes that came out since the last time Nate and I briefly chatted about it, it gets better every week as you sort of fall in love with these players and the people around the team more and more. But that will do it for This Week in Geek. Thanks for tuning in wherever you listen to podcasts. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and leave us a glowing review. We always appreciate the love. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts on this week's news, you can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. Or if that's a little bit too much like a rotten egg and you're more of the cannibal type, hit us up on Twitter at GeekcentricYT and Instagram at wearegeekcentric. As always, we have plenty of awesome content to check out. We have our spoiler-free review for Hocus Pocus 2, as well as a series of interviews with the cast and crew, including director Anne Fletcher, as well as stars of the film Sam Richardson, Doug Jones, Whitney Peake, Lilia Buckingham, and Belissa Escobedo. That was an absolutely magical experience, so be sure to check it out either where you listen to podcasts or on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric. We also have 2 watch clubs on the go. That's right, not 1, but 2. This includes our spoiler-free thoughts and watch club episodes for the first 3 episodes of Disney Plus's Andor. We're also right in the thick of our watch club for Disney Plus's She-Hulk Attorney at Law. And coming up, we have our spoiler-free and spoiler-filled reviews for Werewolf by Night, so keep an eye out for those. Plus, just like the show you listen to right now, we have our weekly This Week in Geek, where we look at all the latest news and trailers from the Geekiverse. And there's just a ton of other great stuff for you to check out wherever you listen to podcasts, so go out and do just that. Thank you so much for joining us, and as we say,
Laters.
get home safe, guys.
peace.